back, Dr. B here. Welcome to Dr. B Uncensored, where we interview candid thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and founders to tell their story to inspire others to do the same. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of my show. I'm here with the great David Webb. David, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Dr. B. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic, fantastic. Let's jump right into it, man. So,
Sounds
easy
great.
or difficult first question, depending who you ask. Tell everyone about yourself.
Sure. David Webb, real estate investor, developer, and creator of the No Money Millionaire. And so, I teach others how to change from within and, how they can do exactly the same, build wealth from wherever they are.
I love that. I love that. And then, um, before having this whole empire, did you have any mentors or anyone teach you the method, or how did you come about the No Money Millionaire method?
Um, a lot of mistakes and a lot of expensive tuition. That's how I came about it. But I've had a couple mentors too that really stood out to me personally through my path. And one was early on and was about helping me change my mindset. I come from the inner city of Detroit. I grew up, went to Detroit public school system, and so I'm from the inner city, and I had that street mentality that I'm stuck by my beliefs and my excuses, and I met somebody that helped me bridge out of that, and very significant to me, really helped me, you know, um, to develop a better mindset instead of I don't have it, a mindset of how do I get it. And then another gentleman, I had a sales background. I got into sales early on, and I didn't know anything about it, but I had an amazing person that was able to teach me negotiations and able to recognize. And again, it was mindset because I had a teacher in sales that he told me it didn't matter. One of the other gentlemen I worked with along the way, he was an older guy. He came on, he said, I'm a closer. I close big deals. I do this, I do that. But when I was working with him, he had to have special pens to be able to write his stuff with. He had to have special index cards to write his leads on. And he never sold anything. But the guy that was teaching me, which was the owner of the company, he told me, Dave, it doesn't matter. Get a pencil, get a napkin. If it's a good deal, you've negotiated, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter any of those things. It's what you're presenting, how you present it, and then, securing that deal. So those two people were significant to me. And then from there, I read everything I could. I'm pretty much self-educated. I didn't finish high school. I jumped into the work world as early as I could. So I went through a period of where read everything I could. The positive thought authors, Napoleon Hill, and there's a bunch of them that I just read everything that I could. So it's been a culmination of all of that.
I love it. Like you said, right? A couple of mentors, which is great. I think it's important to have mentors, but also it's important to read not everything under the sun, but like you said, absorb as much as you can, right? And then you learn through life, right? School hard knocks, as they say.
Oh,
I learned
and,
as well.
and an
So,
expensive tuition. Ugh.
yes, 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 absolutely, man. So let's take a deeper dive, right? So what's the story behind a No Money Millionaire, right? So how'd you go from broke to building a multi-family real estate portfolio or empire?
I early on, I stumbled into it, and even when I did it, I didn't recognize what I had done. But early on, I was in my 20s, and I was broke. I wasn't working, or at least I didn't have any significant type job. And I came over to my father's house one day, and my father said he was going to sell the house. And, that had been a house that I lived in for going through high school and stuff. So I lived there for a good period of my youth, and I was like, well, I want to buy it. And he laughed at me. He said, "How are you going to buy the house?" Because he knew I didn't have credit at the time. I didn't have money at the time. But what I did have, and I've learned that this is an amazing skill set that you need. I had perseverance, and I wasn't going to stop. And so at that time, we had the yellow pages. And so, dating myself here, but at that time we had the yellow pages. And so I just picked the yellow pages up and I was looking for lenders. And I didn't know, I'd never bought a house before. I just knew I wanted to buy that one. So I didn't know what I was going to encounter. I didn't know what I had to do to make it happen. So I grabbed the yellow pages and I called one lender after the next because as I would call them, they would ask me, "What credit do you have? What down payment do you have?" And I didn't have either. And so they laughed at me in such a way I could tell they were like, "Why are you wasting our time?" But I didn't stop. And I don't know what gave me the determination to continue after I've been rejected 5, 6, 7, 10 times. But I found somebody. And he said, "Well, let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can make it happen." And he was open to trying to creatively create something and work with me. And so what I ended up doing was, since my father owned the house, he was able to gift equity to me. There was my down payment, so we worked that out. And then he said, "Okay, so how are we going to get the credit worked out?" He's like, "Can you partner with somebody?" And so I went to my brother and I said, "I want to buy Dad's house." And he said, "Okay." So he came on with the credit. My dad gifted the equity. And then we had negotiated. My dad was originally going to sell it for 80,000 at the time, but since my brother and I was buying it, he said he'd sell it to us for 60. So we closed for 80, and my brother and I walked away with 10,000 each and owned the home. And I did it with going in, no money, no credit, creatively put his deal together, came out of it with money in the house. I didn't even realize what I had done at the time. I continued even after that, thinking I still had to have the set pieces. I still had to have credit, even though I did it, but I still had to have credit. I still had to have down payment. So I was stuck in that mindset until I did my second deal. And that was during the bubble, 2007. And people came to me and they said, "Dave, you can buy a home." And I was like, "No, I can't." And I was turning myself down before even attempting because I was stuck by those limiting beliefs that I had to have these set pieces. And I knew I didn't have the right credit. I hadn't filed my taxes. I didn't have any down payment, but I always just looked at Craigslist at the time and I saw owner finance and spoke to him, and I was able to buy this house, 1,500 bucks out of pocket. And it was a value add. These were all things I didn't know at the time, but it's everything I look for today. But value add, I got in 1,500 out of pocket, did it all on my own, didn't need any assistance, no credit, none of that. And believe it or not, I hadn't even changed my mindset at that. I did that house. I sold it, made a little bit of money on it, but even after that, I was going another decade, thinking I had to get my credit right, had to get the down payment so I could buy a home traditionally or get in investing traditionally, and then I found a property that I really wanted really badly. Again, there's that perseverance, and I ended up having to figure out what I needed and put it together, and then it all clicked, and then that's all I've been doing ever since.
What lessons did you learn from like your first property meeting that you bought your youth home until today? The perseverance piece, or is there anything apart from
Yeah,
that?
well, the mindset's the biggest thing, really. And, I didn't realize that in, what I had been doing. I didn't realize that. But the mindset you have to switch from "I can't" and "I don't have it" to "how do I get it? What do I have to do?" It's just that simple switch. It's like, I don't have the money to "how do I get the money?" I don't have this to "how do I get it, partner, whatever. It's the whole just that shift in how you see it. And mindset's the biggest thing. But if you don't have perseverance, I mean, through all the ups and downs you're going to encounter, that's a huge, huge trait you have to have as well. But the first thing is being able to shift your mindset from going to "I can't" to "how can I?"
I love that. That kind of reminds me of me. Or you and I are like similar in that vein. Like where this last deal that's God willing closing this week. Yeah, I was persevering. I must have called 30, 40 people, and finally I got two or three folks. Everyone has to bring their part to the table on the syndication, and I finally close the loop on that. But like you, I just kept going and going and going until I someone's finally said yes. Two people
Good
finally
for
said
you.
yes, and it worked out. So all good.
And that's something I think also helped me from that sales training to be able to accept the no's and just go past them until you get that yes. And so that I think that was a big part that that mentor had taught me.
I love that. You spoke about mindset. So I won't get too much into that, but I do want to get into this. Like, what's the first mindset shift you teach people like who are stuck? Is it that change from I can't to how to get it done? Is that it, or is there more to that?
I mean, that's definitely the first one we have to overcome because, everyone keeps telling themselves, I can't, I can't, I can't. And they believe just like I did myself, I was turning myself down before I even attempted to even try it. Someone didn't have to turn me down. I turned myself down first before I even spoke to them. And that's what I encounter. I still work with people from back home and I'm trying to help them, bridge the gap. They know me. They know where I'm from. And I'm telling them how you can do this. And I just had this, there's a guy out here that's with me from Detroit, and he was renting. Well, I wasn't really charging him though, but I had a building I was leasing. I wanted to buy it. And I never worked something out with the owner. He always wanted too much, and we never worked something out. And so I finally bailed out of it. But this person I knew from Detroit was out here working with me on renovating my properties. I was letting him stay in it. But when I pulled out of the property, the owner wasn't going to continue allowing him. It was a commercial building up front, and in the back it was a nice two-bedroom apartment. And so the owner wasn't going to allow him to stay. So I kind of, didn't mean to, but it kind of pulled the rug out from underneath him. And he came to me, he's like, well, do you have something else that I can take over, I can rent or I can move into? And well, I didn't, nothing that would work for his situation. And I said, but why don't you, I said, we're out here, what we're out here doing. I said, why don't you try to get a home? And he had the same thing. He was like, well, I don't have my credit. I don't have, any down payment. And I said, well, just look. Let's see what we can find. You have to just look to see what your opportunities are. And he did. He found, and that's one of those things, it's like it'll appear when you need it. And it did. It did. It came to him. It was a perfect location. It was a triplex. It was a seller finance. It needed some work. He was able to negotiate doing the work as his down payment. He came in it with no money. One of the units was empty out of the three. The other two, he closed. This was in August. August 1st, he closed. The other two paid him rent. And so he went in with no money. At closing, collected money, and he lives upstairs in the third unit for free. The other two pay the note that he negotiated, and he got in with no money because he was able to negotiate doing the handyman work as his down payment. So, it's that first switch from I can't to how can I?
That's an important switch. Very, very important. I'm glad he was able to help him realize that, right? So,
Well, now
we
it's changed everything in him. It really has. Now he's already focused on what's next. He's already looking for 2026 to be able to rent where he's at now and start getting his other property. And so once it kind of clicks and you see it happens, then it's like, okay, but it's that first shift. It's that
yeah.
first going from I can't to how can I?
Yep, yep, yeah. How can I? I like that. That's like the theme today. How can I do it?
Yeah.
I love it. Hey man, what is the biggest adversity or biggest adversities you've had to overcome on your journey, and how has that shaped you to what you're doing today?
You know, I I struggled most of my, coming up. I was all those limiting beliefs kept me in that cycle of struggle. And, I've been through over at least over 15 evictions. I was fortunate. I was a single parent raising my son, and we had moved out to California. Well, every summer he would return back and visit his family, his mother and my mother and all of that, and thankfully so, because every summer while he was gone during those 3 months, I was getting evicted. Every time he came home, he came to a new house. He was young. He didn't realize what was going on. It was always exciting and new to him. But I lived in the desert. And so during the summer, it dried up. I mean, no pun intended. People left, the snowbirds left. It just there wasn't work. And being in sales, I just there wasn't work, and so I just every year after the next. I would get evicted. I've been through having my utilities shut off, and Edison just would not turn them on. I couldn't get them on, and I had to run a little inverter off of my car, leave my car running in the garage with an inverter, and running extension cords through my house so I'd have electricity. And my son would come home from school. And until I came home, he couldn't have any electricity. He'd have to sit there and wait till I finally came home because I could plug the extension cords in into the car. And, I had to actually move out of that house before I could get somewhere and get electricity on. And so, I mean, I've been through it, I've been through it. And it was getting through the mindset shift, being able to finally, I told you I went through two no money deals and it still hadn't clicked. It's tough cutting those beliefs that hold us down. And so, once I finally did though, everything changed. Everything changed. So up until that point, which wasn't too long ago, I always thought I needed to buy with cash and do everything, and that kept me limited. So once I finally learned how to do my no money method, how to bring in and orchestrate a deal, I struggled all the way through. So
But I'm glad you figured it out. It may,
yeah,
like you said,
yeah,
school hard knocks, you the expensive tuition, but I'm glad you figured it out. But
yeah.
that's my next question. My question to you, without giving away the secret sauce, is how can someone buy real estate with no money of their own?
Sure. Well, like you've heard me already say, I partnered. I've brought in the pieces that I've needed. You can look for seller finance that we've spoken about. Those are the primary ways that I try to help people from where they're at from nothing. Some people have money, but that's not who, generally that I'm having to help and help them overcome in their mindset. So it's orchestrating, bringing in partners, having people trust you. That's a big deal. You have to be able to, when you start working with partners, you have to be able to have people trust you. And so, you learn how to, I call myself like a project manager. I find the pieces I need to pull it together. I oversee it to come to fruition, renovations, renting out the apartments. So I just manage the project and bring in the pieces that I need. So, people can start as seller finance. They can, find a deal, find partners to bring in capital, and then it comes down to trust.
I know all about that as far as trust because I was working with someone and no longer work with an individual, and which cost me time and money and
Yeah.
all that. So yeah, it's all about curating and having the right team around you, right? Do you agree there?
Yeah, well, when I'm talking to people or in my book, I've written, when you start bringing in partners and you have other people's money, I mean, you have to treat that better than your own. That you can't ever let something go wrong with that. You can let something go wrong with your own, but when you have partners in, they have to be treated above and beyond what you would your own.
100%, 100%. Um, Follow up to that question for someone starting with nothing, right? What is the first step to get into real estate investing? What should be the first step? Numero uno, first step.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of my latest videos I put out was if I was starting from zero, what would be the first 5 steps that I did? And the very first one is I'd start getting out in real estate groups. I would just start getting myself into the circle of what I'm trying to do. And I would join Facebook posts, your local real estate investor groups, bigger pockets, different anything real estate group focused meetups, anything I could get in. That'd be the first place I'd go. And then from there, I'd start looking for, I'd start reaching out and speaking to hard money lenders, people doing DSCR loans, introducing myself, telling them what I'm trying to do and what do they need from me to be able to, close a property. So start learning the pieces to be able to put the puzzle together.
It makes total sense as far as being out there and networking and building that team, right? And connecting with the lenders and all that. I love that.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Financial freedom. What does that mean to you? It means it's an interesting question because for different people it means different things. But what does financial freedom mean to you?
Sure. Coming out of the inner city, coming out of being poor, you always look at fancy cars and, your big brand name, items, and but all of that still keeps you trapped. What financial freedom is being able to have your control, being able to control your time, being able to decide what you want to do instead of what you have to do. And so that's what financial freedom is to me. And I'll give you a little example. When I was struggling and I was raising my son, I faced a decision one time. He was part of this event at school and he was excited about it. He put a lot of work into it and he wanted me to be there because his mother couldn't. So he wanted me to be there. It was really important to him. But I was faced with at work that if I went to it, they would fire me. I would have lost my job. And so I couldn't lose my job and I couldn't go. And, people are faced with those things. And sometimes it's not just something being with your kid at school. Sometimes it's being with, a family member if they're sick or they're ill. And you're faced with either losing your job or being able to be with your family. And that's what financial freedom gives me the ability to do what I want to instead of what I have to.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like this is like a therapy session because because girl, just true. I'll tell you why. Because you reminded me of my own parents, right? I couldn't be there. They had to work, and I was, when I was in little league, they barely attended any games. It was always my aunt, my uncles, my cousins, because my mom had to work, right, or dad had to
Yeah.
work, right. So
Yeah.
yeah, so actually years later, I remember we had to sit down. Right? It was over Thanksgiving. We were just chatting, and then she, hey, I'm sorry, son, this and that. So but that makes sense, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't get it as a kid, you get it more as an adult, like why they weren't there. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me personally, I try to be there for my daughter as much as possible, whether it's like Christmas concerts or whether it's like
Sure.
swimming and all that. So I try to be the opposite,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Because you've created that financial freedom. You can do that. And that's what it is. It's the ability to give you your time. And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. Tell us about like your academy. How do you help other folks, create that financial freedom?
Sure. Well, I've written a book. It's called The No Money Millionaire: How to Build Wealth Through Real Estate Without Using Any of Your Own Money. It's available for free right now to any of your listeners. They can go on my website. They can download it for free at nomoneymillionaire.com. And so, you can find me. Just Google nomoneymillionaire.com. You'll find me. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. But yeah, you can just Google No Money Millionaire. You'll find me. And on my website, I have toolkits that, are available for download, deal analyzers, all different types of things I'm trying to, help people get.
I love that. I love that. Good, good. I will make sure that when we release the episode, we'll add it in the description. NoMoneyMillionaire.com for sure.
Thank
Last
you.
question. Two questions.
Okay.
Final thoughts. Any final thoughts for the folks listening who are on the fence of investing in real estate?
You can do it. You can do it. No matter what your situation is, there's ways to do it. Just again, we've mentioned it before, and I can't say it enough. Stop thinking you can't and start asking yourself, how can I? Yeah, don't count yourself out, before you try. And that's a thing that I did a big portion of my life. So, and that's what I try to tell everyone. Just you can do it. These deals are out there. Where I'm from, you know, and where I'm at today, I'm sure is very similar with other people in similar situations. And so none of that has to stop you from where you're able to go. So, just stop with the I don't have this, I don't have that, and start asking yourself, how do I get it? How do I do it?
I love it. I love it. Where could people find more information about you? I think we already mentioned on
Sure.
moneymillionaire.com. How can they reach out to you personally if they wanted to reach out to explore that further?
You can reach me. You connect at nomoneymillionaire.com is my email. You can reach out to me. I respond to everybody. But yeah, go to my website. On there, you can get join my newsletter. I have a newsletter that comes out. You can get on the list to be on the newsletter, which has tips and pointers and different deals that I break down and help analyze. So yeah, nomoneymillionaire.com or email me at connect at nomoneymillionaire.com.
David, I our time is up. I try to keep an internal clock 30 minutes or
Yeah,
less. This was a
yeah.
fantastic interview and would love to, chat with you offline. But this was great. This was a fantastic interview. Thanks for
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David. David Webb, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Dr. B here, Dr. B Uncensored. Hopefully, you enjoyed that episode. Remember, you are one big deal away. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel now. Take care.